All right. Welcome everyone. I had received some information that I'm not going to be on here long. That I want to screen share with you guys to just give you my thoughts and opinion. I was sent an email by a sister in the Lord, and let me opinion. There we go. Just had to mute the watch page, and this was a tweet from Melissa Tate. It looks like this. Let me see if I can see when this was done. 20 hours ago. And so I've done some research on this video clip, and actually the video that was tweeted is well over a month old. But let me go ahead and screen share. Let me go ahead and play this for you guys. Give me just a second here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to play this. And then I have a few other clips, basically with a little bit more detail on this particular clip. Here we go.
We have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual.
I didn't quite get that. Can I hear that one more time? I'm serious. I could not tell what you just said.
From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person actually transmits onward to a secondary individual.
Still didn't quite get that, but Dr. Samadi went to medical school. He's been listening to doctors all of his life. Doctor, I believe the headline from the World Health Organization is asymptomatic people are not infectious. They're not going to spread the disease. Is that what the WHO is saying?
Yes, that's correct, Greg. Look, you and I have been going at this since February of this year. We've covered more than hundreds of these segments on Newsmax TV. The most important segment about what we're going to be talking about COVID is probably tonight, because they're taking a 360-degree turn, and WHO is announcing, and this is big news, that asymptomatic people out there are not contagious. Remember, because we didn't know who would be passing this virus or not, we made everybody do something called social distancing. This is a new word that you've heard of it, and it came to our life a few months ago. We made everybody across the board to wear masks. At the beginning, we said if you have symptoms, you wear the mask to protect others, and then we gave in because CDC and everybody kept changing back and forth. We also made everybody to go for testing. We need 300 million tests the next day, or else we cannot reopen our country. And guess what? This thing, this is very important. It's a breaking news that if you are not symptomatic and you don't have any symptoms of fever, chills, shortness of breath, or any of those symptoms we've spoken about, the risk of passing it on to other people and being contagious is very rare. And studies like this comes from a very accurate tracing in countries like Singapore, contact tracing, and it's too bad that these researchers are not, the papers are not making it to Lancet, and mainstream media is not covering to the extent. This is probably one of the biggest news that we've had since.
Okay. Let me I'll just stop that for right now. Okay, so that's the original tweet that was sent to me via email. Okay, well, when I looked this up, this was done on June 8th. Okay, well, now the WHO, the World Health Organization, is actually they backtracked. And so let me show you that. Okay, now of course I'm not sure on the the clip that I just shared with you. I'm not sure if that's affiliate with Republicans or Democrats. That I'm not sure. Okay, but what I can show you, and let me go ahead and I will screen share again. Give me just a second here.
Are you live, Mom?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Are you guys still there? Oh my gosh, I am really, really sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. Um, that was really, really weird. Um, okay, well, what I had to do is I had to just I couldn't I had like my whole computer froze. I had to just like manually turn off my my computer. Let me fix my green screen. It's like, there we go. I think that's a little bit better. And so I didn't know if that would kill the broadcast, or if I would have to come in and create it all over again. Let me close out some pages that I don't need. Okay, so I showed you the initial.
There's a couple of things in the question that you just asked.
Okay, I showed you the tweet, and it looks like this tweet was sent maybe 20 hours ago. But the World Health Organization did that broadcasting, that female doctor. It was like June 8th, because I did a search for it online. Okay, now what I want to show you guys, and hopefully this isn't going to mess up. I'm okay. Thank you, honey. Let's see. Okay, let me make sure that let me make sure I've got the here it is. Backtracks. Okay.
Contain. Many experts, the virus
Okay,
is
here we
very
go.
difficult to contain. Many experts studying the pandemic have said one reason for that is because of silent spreaders, people with no symptoms transmitting the virus. That's why it came as a bit of a shock to hear this yesterday from the World Health Organization.
It still appears to be rare that an asymptomatic individual actually transmits onward. We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts.
See,
they're
June
not finding
9th.
secondary
June 9th.
transmission onward is very rare. And that much of that is not published in the literature.
The WHO is slightly walking that back today, saying asymptomatic transmission is still, quote, a big open question. So what should Canadians make of this? Dr. Zane Chagla,
Or anybody in the United States or the world.
Professor in the Department of Medicine at McMaster University. He joins us from Mississauga. And Dr. Samir Gupta is a respirologist and associate professor in the Department of Medicine at the University of Toronto. He joins us from that city. Hello to both of you. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
So on this preliminary question I have around asymptomatic transmission, I think it's a huge point of discussion, Dr. Chagla, among Canadians right now. What can you tell us about what evidence exists about it?
Yeah, so asymptomatic transmission, and the World Health Organization, it was a bit of a misnomer what they used for asymptomatic transmission. So they're referring to someone that throughout the entirety of their illness does not develop a symptom. The evidence behind whether or not that person, when they have zero symptoms for 14 days or however long the illness lasts, then transmits to another person, is in question. There is certainly some data that it may happen. Whether or not it's a significant amount of what happens to transmit the disease in our communities is still questionable. But from a personal standpoint, I can't tell if I'm asymptomatic or in 2 days I become symptomatic. So those of us on the front line, those of us in our communities, it's still very important that we still adhere to the same precautions, as we don't know if we're
Yeah,
going to
be the sheeple like you're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dr. Gupta. We had Premier Blaine Higgs from New Brunswick, where, of course, they've had that outbreak in Campbellton, and he was saying one of the things he noted that he would demarcate over the past few days is that a number of people who initially showed no symptoms, eventually 3 days later, even though they were still not showing symptoms because they did such widespread testing due to the outbreak, were actually testing positive. So he was actually seeing, and it's not, I mean, this is anecdotal, But based on what he was seeing, just in that one incident, there were asymptomatic people who eventually did test positive.
Yeah, I think it's, it's beyond anecdotal. This story started with case clusters. We had reports in very prominent journals of a number of people who appeared to have been infected by somebody who was either asymptomatic or, as Dr. Shagla mentioned, pre-symptomatic. In other words, they didn't know they had it. They eventually developed symptoms, but they spread it in the period of time before they had those symptoms. So that's how the story started. And
Okay. Let me play you this one, okay? Give me just a second here. Let me make sure this is right. Yeah. And see, this is all on the leftist news stations.
We know that people who are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, when we do nasopharyngeal swabs on those people, they're shedding in many cases as much virus as someone who's infected and symptomatic. So you could surmise from that they're going to be contagious. It might be the case that they're less contagious, but it's way too early to conclude that. We don't have definitive data on this question right now. So we need to assume that asymptomatic individuals can pass on the virus, because when we swab them, we know they have virus on them, and we know that they can exude it.
The majority of transmission that we know about is that people who have symptoms transmit the virus to other people through infectious droplets. But there are a subset of people who don't develop symptoms. And to truly understand how many people don't have symptoms, we don't actually have that answer yet.
Okay. Here's my thoughts on this, okay? You could take all those qualifications about spreading illnesses and disease, and you could apply it to almost any illness, flu, strain, virus out there, okay? If you're asymptomatic, okay, you don't know you have it, okay? That basically just means, okay, I've potentially been exposed, okay? And however long the incubation period is, okay, there's a likelihood, like let's say you were a passenger in my car today or maybe yesterday, and you didn't tell me, I wasn't aware, but you were sick with a cold or a flu virus. Okay, maybe you kept your symptoms under control, but maybe you've had, a runny nose or something, okay. You sneeze in my car, okay, well, that's going to shed the virus or the illness, okay, to where now I'm at risk of catching that cold or that flu or whatever strain of virus your body is currently fighting off and dealing with, okay? Now, would you say I'm asymptomatic at that point? Okay, because what's the incubation period? Okay, well, I believe it's probably different for different types of illnesses. It could be, 48 hours, 72 hours. I've had illnesses where I'm like, yeah, I can probably tell you who it was I was around, and not more than a few days later, now I'm sick, okay? Especially if we have children in our homes or we live with other people who we know, okay, they've been, running around, with the Kleenex up their nose because their nose is running like a faucet nonstop. I mean, chances are, if they're sick with a cold or a virus, more than likely you're going to get that cold or virus too. Now, how long will it take before you start showing symptoms? Well, there's probably a lot of different factors, okay? How healthy are you? Have you, the minute you see somebody showing active symptoms, okay, what are you doing to help safeguard yourself? Or are you doing the self-isolation, Are you trying to keep that other family member away from the rest of the household? Keep them to their bedroom. If they're sick with the cold, you know, as little contact with other people is probably best. Okay, but as mothers, we're going to go in and we're going to tend to our sick children. Okay, there's just no other way around it. And so usually it might be, a few days I wake up and, oh, now I've got, a scratchy throat, and now now my nose is going to start to run. Okay, now I'm sick. And maybe that incubation period only lasted for about maybe 2 to 3 days. Okay, well, those 2 to 3 days before I start showing symptoms, that would be considered asymptomatic, right? Okay, well, and that's why I'm looking at this as the way you do any other kind of cold and flu. Okay, would you expect your whole child's classroom to be wearing face masks because now your child is homesick? Or would you expect, okay, the child that's sick, okay, they're out of the classroom, they're away from the other children, keep them isolated so then they don't continue to spread the cold or the flu to the other classmates? How would you parents feel if all of the students in the classroom had to wear had to wear masks? Okay, well, see, that's what the whole world is doing now. And so just my comments is, I think it's she was probably the female doctor. She was probably speaking the truth, that if you're not showing any signs, you're not spreading the disease. Okay, you keep the sick isolated and away from the rest of the population. You don't keep well people bound up in masks and in everything else. And so what I saw when I was doing my research into this, okay, this was done a month ago, a little over a month ago. And this is right when many states opened up, okay? A lot of things opened back up around the 1st of June. Whereas before we were completely locked down. It was only essential workers that could go to work. You were ordered to stay home unless you had to, go do banking business, or if you had to go to the grocery store, anything that consisted of being an essential need. Okay, but then when the states started opening back up again, now we're like, okay, what's going to happen? And I realize that there is some fear with, okay, are we opening too soon? Okay, but see, if you just look at this as like you would look at any other cold or flu season, which for some people can potentially be detrimental to them, depending on their health conditions, okay? But you can't be that way across the board to everyone, because as I've done many videos and shown other clips, there's a 98% recovery rate, even if you would be tested positive for COVID. And who's to say that you testing positive wasn't a false positive to begin with? And what other factors are they factoring in? They talk about all this contact tracing. And this has been put on your phones now, okay? I can tell you exactly what mine says in my phone right now. Okay. You want to go to your settings, and depending on if you have an iPhone or if you have an Android phone, I have an Android, so mine is under the Google settings. Under services, it says COVID-19 exposure notifications. Now mine is off because I've never downloaded any participating apps. But what it says, I don't know, hopefully you can, the glare's not too bad. It says COVID-19 notifications. To turn on COVID-19 exposure notifications, install or finish setting up a participating app. Now, when I click under Learn More, this is what it says. Let's see. The glare is so bad, I apologize. You can't really see it. Use the COVID-19 exposure notification system on your Android phone. To help understand whether you've been exposed to someone who reports having COVID-19, you can turn on exposure notifications. If you change your mind, you can turn it off. To use the system, you need to download your Public Health Authorities app. If you have COVID-19, you may share that info with the app to help alert the people you've been in contact with. And then it's just, blah, 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 blah. All these things that you need to know to get started. How exposure notifications work. How the app may determine exposure. Okay, now, why are they making a big deal out of COVID when there's more than enough data out there that proves that COVID is not what mainstream media has been telling us that it is? Okay, well, my personal belief is it's a political ploy, and this is just my thoughts. And I haven't been the first one to think this. Other bigger channels like Timcast has already talked about this. How much you want to bet when the elections are over with, whether or not Trump is reelected or not, how much you want to bet COVID's going to go away after the elections? More than likely, I think they probably will. But for now, to control the narrative, to try to get voters away from voting for Trump, which is their legal right to do. If you want to vote for Trump, you're going to vote for Trump. If you don't want to vote for Trump, you're not going to vote for Trump. But you know what? This is still America. This is still home of the free and the brave. I have just as much of a right to vote for who I feel is best in office as you have to vote for who you feel is best in office. Okay, but what's not good is when you have, yes, a real virus that they have turned into like this political war zone. Okay, it was all about COVID-19, shut everything down. Then George Floyd happened. And everybody's attention turned to that. And all the, the BLM and the riots and Chaz and all of that. Okay, well, see, now things, they got people's mind off of COVID and onto BLM and Antifa and all of that. Well, they're still pushing the narrative of COVID-19, but people weren't really paying attention to that. Well, then what happened shortly after that? Across the United States, mandatory mask wearing. Well, that's going to get everybody's attention back on COVID. And then you hear all the reports of 5,000 new cases of COVID a day. And you can go look up your statistics in whatever state you live in. I live in California. Okay, it's all BS. Okay, how are they getting these high numbers? Okay, well, people who have been exposed, literally been exposed to COVID. Okay, well, could it be that some of these reports are being falsified because they are now testing for antibodies? But are they telling people that they're being that they have antibodies now, which means that you're not going to get sick with COVID anymore? You're immune to it? Well, no, they're going to lump it in and say, okay, that's just one more. 4,999 cases. Somebody else has antibodies. So they're not going to get, okay, well, that's one more who's tested positive for COVID. See, they're not telling the truth. They're just not. It's all a political agenda. And like I've said, it's to create compliance. How far are you willing to go? How much of your rights and your freedoms are you willing to give up before you're going to say enough is enough? Okay. Now, I don't trust the World Health Organization any more than I can throw them. Okay. I just don't. But I tend to think she probably told more truth in that. And of course, now they're going to backpedal. Oh, no, I really wasn't meaning that. And it was just, a small subset of studies. Okay. Do your own research. Don't be a sheeple. Don't follow blindly. Because the blind leading the blind, you're going to be led into a ditch. You're going to be led down the road of destruction. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. I apologize that for about 5-10 minutes I kind of went off the air, even though I guess I was still recording. My computer just completely froze up. All I could do was turn my computer off and turn it back on, but I guess it showed that I was broadcasting the whole time. So I do apologize. At least I got to play some clips from you for you guys. So all right, I'm going to head on out. Just wanted to report on this. Treat COVID-19 like you would any other illness that is contagious. Don't treat it more, don't treat it less. When my children are sick with a cold, I do try to protect myself. I may take more zinc. I may take more vitamin C, maybe vitamin D. Try to build up my own immune system, especially if I'm in there taking care of them, giving them medicine and, helping them when they're too sick to take care of themselves. Yes, I'm going to protect myself. See, that's what we've done for my entire life. I don't intentionally try to cough and breathe on people if I'm sick. People know if I'm sick, stay away from me until I'm better. But to have this kind of an attitude of, well, even asymptomatic people are contagious, I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. People, you need to start thinking for yourselves. You really, really do. So, all right, you guys take care. God bless, and I will see you next time.